Brandon Miller, a good kid from a good family, succumbed to the culture. He did exactly what we're programming kids to do. Hate the police, don't turn to law enforcement to fix a problem, solve dangerous disputes with handguns amongst yourselves. The Brandon Miller Alabama basketball saga makes me think of the movie Boyz n the Hood. The 1991 coming-of-age story about three black boys growing up in South Central Los Angeles. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, Trey, lived with his father. Trey's two best friends, Ricky and Doughboy, lived with their single mother. Gangbangers shot and killed Ricky. Doughboy avenged his brother's murder, killing rival gang members. Trey originally attempted to participate in the revenge drive-by shooting, but hopped out of the car and returned home to his father. The movie climaxed when Doughboy, played by rapper Ice Cube, complained that American media don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's really going on in the hood. The University of Alabama is not the hood. It's a sprawling, beautiful college campus in Tuscaloosa. But Doughboy's sentiment applies. Corporate media don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's really going on in American culture. The culture killed Jamea Harris, the 25-year-old mother shot in the face after Brandon Miller drove a gun to the scene of a dispute between Harris's boyfriend and the childhood friend of Miller's teammate, Darius Miles. The culture compelled Miller to make a terrible, tragic mistake. Corporate media, the music industry, Hollywood, ESPN, Fox Sports, and professional sports leagues have mainstreamed, normalized, celebrated, and imposed the gang culture depicted in the movie Boyz n the Hood on young people, particularly black youth. If you criticize the destructive and deadly culture prescribed to kids, you'll be treated worse than an anti-vaxxer. You'll be labeled a racist or a sellout. There's no mystery as to why Brandon Miller made the wrong choice on January 15th. The culture demanded that he do so or face excommunication from the black race. Black young men have to be down for their boys or anything defined as black, regardless of right and wrong. It's the same reason not one black NFL player was willing to publicly question the authenticity of Colin Kaepernick's social justice kneeling. Racial solidarity trumped the truth. Everyone, including white players, coaches, and executives, took a knee rather than point out the obvious, that Kaepernick's confusion over his mixed-race heritage caused his radicalization. Groupthink is gangthink. Groupthink is a byproduct of extreme social pressure to conform to whatever has been normalized. The NFL platformed the primary propagandists, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, for gang culture during the 2022 Super Bowl. Hip-hop music is piped into virtually every stadium, arena, practice facility, and weight room in college and pro sports. Brandon Miller, a good kid from a good family, succumbed to the culture. He did exactly what we're programming kids to do. Hate the police, don't turn to law enforcement to fix a problem, solve dangerous disputes with handguns amongst yourselves. Miller would be labeled a punk if he had called the police rather than acquiesce to Miles's request for a gun. Men don't stand up anymore. Brandon Miller is really no different from Jerry Jones, who in 2017 took a knee before the national anthem with his Cowboys players. Miller's no different than Roger Goodell and Adam Silver, the commissioners who splattered their fields, courts, and uniforms with the Marxist slogans of Black Lives Matter. Idolatry rules America. Racial idolatry is the culture's weapon of mass destruction. Corporate America and the Silicon Valley-controlled social media algorithms forbid objection to whatever degeneracy is classified as black culture. Brandon Miller is a great kid from a great family. He's trapped in the destructive culture we created and continue to tolerate. We've been watching grown men fold, bow and submit to this toxic culture for the last decade. Many of the journalists and broadcasters criticizing Miller had and have no problem worshiping at the altar of St. George Floyd. NFL owners have turned over millions of dollars to an inspired change criminal justice reform movement that demonizes law enforcement and formulates sob stories for career criminals. America is doing something wrong when the mistakes of criminals warrant an abundance of compassion and the errors of good people are unforgivable. What happened to Miller, the star of Alabama's second-ranked basketball team, makes perfect sense in modern American culture. The 6'9" freshman forward, a likely NBA lottery pick, followed the lead of professional athletes. Via social media and their public statements in the media, black professional athletes present themselves as court-appointed public defendants for career criminals. Showtime Sports podcast star and former NBA player Steven Jackson posted a video of himself bragging about hanging out with gangbangers on O Block, an infamous area on the south side of Chicago. It's not difficult to see what was influencing Miller in the wee hours of January 15th. Darius Miles, a little-used bench player, was the Steven Jackson of the Alabama basketball team. Miles had all the street cred. Miles kept his boy from the hood, Michael Davis, close. Miller responded to a text from Miles that initially asked for a ride to another location and then asked for Miller to deliver the handgun Miles left in the back of Miller's car earlier in the evening. When Miller arrived at the scene, Miles retrieved the handgun, gave it to his childhood friend Davis, who shot into a car Jamea Harris and her boyfriend occupied. Harris was killed. Within days, police arrested Miles and Davis for murder. Alabama immediately disassociated itself from Miles, who only played in 6 games this season. Brandon Miller kept playing basketball. This week, during a grand jury hearing, the public learned that Miller drove the gun to the scene. Prosecutors have stated there are no plans to charge Miller with a crime. He has been described as a cooperating witness, leading many people to wonder if he's receiving preferential treatment because he's a superstar athlete. Miller, Alabama basketball coach Nate Oates, school president Stuart Bell have all been vilified for taking no action against Brandon Miller. On Wednesday, a day after the public learned Miller's role in the tragedy, the freshman scored 41 points against South Carolina, sinking the game-winning shot. Oates has defended his decision not to discipline Miller, saying Miller's a good kid who was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Miller's lawyer put out a long statement explaining Miller's involvement in the tragedy. The entire incident is captured on videotape and allegedly supports the lawyer's narrative. The explanations might be difficult for some people to understand, but not for me. I believe Brandon Miller is a good kid. I believe we have placed good kids in a terrible predicament by forcing them to develop in a culture dedicated to undermining their development. Punishing Miller isn't the solution. Acknowledging and deconstructing the racially idolatrous culture that has captured America is what we need to do. Or maybe Boyz and the Burbs is what we deserve.